Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here. Time to make a video about Gervonta Tank Davis. Now to me, Gervonta Davis has been one of the biggest disappointments in boxing in the last 18 months. The guy came up as a really highly touted prospect. He was getting a lot of hype out of that Mayweather gym, and on the come up he looked really exciting. He looked like a real good talent, and he was one to watch. He looked like the real deal. He eventually stepped up against Jose Pedraza in January 2017, and that was a considerable step up at the time. And in that fight, Tank Davis knocked out Jose Pedraza to become the new IBF Super Featherweight Champion. He won that title off a good man, a good fighter, and he looked great doing it. At this point, the world was at Tank Davis's feet. After he won that world title against Jose Pedraza, he was then mandated to fight the unbeaten Liam Walsh. Now Liam Walsh, not the strongest mandatory in the world, but that wasn't Tank Davis's fault. He had to fight him, but he decided to take that fight on the road, and he fought Liam Walsh in the UK, away from home. And to me, that was a great look. And once again, Tank Davis delivered a really good performance. He knocked out Liam Walsh early on in that bout. That was in May 2017. But after that fight, to me, Gervonta Tank Davis really hasn't kicked on. After that fight with Liam Walsh, he then fought in August 2017 against a guy called Francisco Fonseca. He was a really low-level opponent, a really bad cherry pick. So you would expect Gervonta Davis to blast this guy out of there, but before this fight there were rumours of a falling out between Gervonta Davis and Floyd Mayweather, and the fight came along and Gervonta Davis looked really poor. He looked really predictable, really workmanlike, and he just looked laboured and disinterested. He eventually knocked out Fonseca, but he didn't look good doing it. And there were several rumours going around about a falling out between him and Floyd. Whether that affected his performance or whatever, I don't know, but it certainly highlighted his unprofessional nature. If that's the sort of thing that will distract him in a fight, then God only knows what will happen when things start to get tough in there. If he's getting distracted from a falling out, then that doesn't really bode well for the future. Nevertheless, the next year, in 2018, he only fought once, and he was 23 years old in 2018. At 23 years old, you need to be much more active than fighting once a year. But he fought a guy called Jesus Andreas Cuellar. Cuellar was a guy coming off a loss and coming up a weight class. He knocked out Cuellar, he looked good doing it, but not really that impressive given the circumstances of a guy coming up in weight, coming off a loss. And that was his only fight in 2018. And in 2019, he's had one fight so far against Hugo Ruiz. Now that was a late replacement because Abner Mares pulled out, but even the original fight wasn't great. Abner Mares shot to bits, coming up in weight, coming off a loss, and yeah, he was a poor opponent to begin with, but he pulled out due to injury, and then they replaced him with a guy called Hugo Ruiz, and Hugo Ruiz started at super flyweight. Regardless of it being a late replacement, it was a horrible opponent. It really was, and as expected, Gervonta Davis blasted this guy out of there in one round. Now, given the nature of that fight, given the fact it was a late replacement, you said to yourself, you know what, early in the year, write this one off, he can still have a good 2019. But here we are in June. He's got a fight in July against a guy called Ricardo Nunes. He's fighting Ricardo Nunes on the 27th of July. Now this is a mandatory from the WBA, but it's a terrible opponent. Really bad opponent. The guy's not beat anybody worth a damn. How this guy is mandatory, I don't know. Now that's not Gervonta Davis's fault. He can't control who is mandatory. But at the same time, it's another fight nobody cares about. It's another fight wasted. It's another training camp wasted. Where's this guy's career going? It started out so promisingly, smashing up Jose Pedraza, looking like $1 million, defending your world title for the first time away from home in the UK. It started so well, but recently it's all gone pear-shaped. Missing weight and losing his IBF title, getting fat in between fights, drama outside the ring, an up and down relationship with his promoter. What's going on here? What's going on? To me, Gervonta Davis in the past 2 years has been the biggest disappointment in boxing. When this guy first came on the scene, when he first won his world title, I really felt this guy could go a long way. I felt he had a lot of natural ability, explosive power, hand speed. He was nice and compact, lovely hand speed, great combination puncher. He was a great offensive fighter, but he's really not developed or came on since 2017. You know, his career's not developed, but what about technically? Have you seen any technical improvements from Gervonta Davis since that Pedraza fight? I'm not so sure. I mean, he's fought such a low level of competition and he's been so inactive, it's hard to tell. From when I have seen him in the ring, I don't think he's any better now than he was in 2017 when he won that world title. I don't really think he's come on at all. It's not to say he's not a talented fighter, because I clearly believe he is, and he's still a really good fighter, but I've not seen the levels of development that I was expecting, both in terms of how his career's progressed and the technical sides to his game. Now, you guys may feel I'm overreacting. You may say, well, the guy's only 24 years old, you know, he's still young, he can learn, he can get better, and he can still have a great career. Maybe so, but he's not shown that type of mental ability to do so. He doesn't seem like the type of person who learns from his mistakes. He gets himself involved into things that he shouldn't be getting himself involved with, and I believe this will end in tears, and ultimately I believe Gervonta Davis will go down as a what if, maybe, what could have been. A wasted talent. That's how I feel Gervonta Davis will go down. That's the path I believe he's heading in. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he will go on to be a great fighter and one of the best pound for pound. But I see way too many similarities between Tank Davis and Adrian Broner. You know, boxing works in cycles and sometimes people forget the previous cycle. But I remember Adrian Broner on the come up, all the hype, all the praise, but he never lived up to it. And I remember back then, you know, people were saying his lifestyle would eventually catch up to him. And that happened to Broner. He was unprofessional, he took his eye off a ball, he ate his way out of lightweight, he went straight to welterweight, got smashed up by Maidana, and he never really recovered. And I believe the same fate will await Gervonta Davis. Watch what happens when this guy can't make lightweight anymore. Watch what happens. He's going to be severely undersized against the likes of Richard Comey or Teofimo Lopez or even Devin Haney. You know, these guys are a lot bigger. They are a lot stronger and most of these guys hit a lot harder. And as for Lomachenko, I mean, yes, they are similar in terms of dimensions, but Lomachenko would toy with Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis mentally is not ready for Lomachenko. Like I said earlier, if this guy is distracted by squabbles between him and Floyd, what do you think's going to happen when Lomachenko's boxing rings round him, reddening his face, making him swell up? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think this guy's going to respond well? Or do you think he's going to quit or go into his shell like a lot of Lomachenko opponents? This guy really doesn't have the right mentality to fight Lomachenko right now. He doesn't. And as for the other guys, he's too small in my opinion. Watch what happens when Tank Davis eats himself out of super featherweight. And it's getting close. He's missed weight before and he's nearly missed it a couple of times after. So when this guy can't make super featherweight anymore, I think reality will set in and Tank Davis will come unstuck. That's how I see his career unfolding right now, unless he finds a new level of discipline and develops a different mindset, I really don't see this story ending well. I think it will all end in tears. Now, Gervonta Davis, I will stress this again, I believe he's got the physical talents to be an extremely good fighter. If he could stick around at super featherweight, I think he could reign for a long, long time. I would pick him on his day to beat any super featherweight active right now, including Miguel Berchelt. So it's not like I don't rate this guy's skills or ability, I do. I think the guy's extremely talented, but I just don't think he's got that mindset to go with it. And the people around him, again, it really does leave a lot to be desired. But that's just my opinion. Share your thoughts below. Peace.